This is episode 104 of Standing Out. Standing Out is a remarkable interview-style podcast with the intention to highlight women and men making outstanding contributions in their field. Today, I'd like to welcome Vanessa Dewey. Throughout her career, Vanessa has been passionate about three things: cultures, connections, and communities. She continually looks both outward and inward to foster inspiration, forge creative communities, and encourage risk-taking, curiosity, and bold action. Her nonlinear career has taken her from branding to packaging, then to HR during her time at Mattel, and now to Adobe, where she continues to foster her passions, now globally. Welcome, Vanessa. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Katrina. Thank you so much. It's great to talk with you right after the new year.
Yeah, of course. I'd love to start with your time at Mattel. That to me sounds like such a fun place to work. How did you get your start with Mattel?
It was very interesting. It's funny. Many times when I meet people right away, it's like from people who are like my grandparents, like my parents' age, are like, you know what my favorite Mattel toy was? It's fascinating. I never expected. Like I grew up with Mattel toys. Sorry?
Everyone knows the brand.
Indeed, Barbie, Hot Wheels, Polly Pocket, among others. And I grew up with, Barbie and all, but I never expected to work at Mattel, actually. Many of my colleagues who are on the product side, they were passionate about toys, so they knew that was their goal. But for me, I actually didn't even expect to be in graphic design, ultimately, to be honest. I finished up my undergrad degree with a BFA in art school, Purchase College, and one of my uncles worked in the ad agency in New York, and he always told me, get packaging on your CV, because packaging at the end of the day can be a beast when it comes to design. It's not as, it has complexities. And so I guess maybe that was in the back of my mind what I wanted to do. And design actually led me from New York to California about 15 years ago. And I didn't start Mattel right away. I worked in more publishing, intern for April Greiman, and then somehow the opportunity for Mattel came up, and I'm like, sure, let's go for it. Always open up for the experience, and started there in about 2008, working on Barbie branding and packaging, and then translated that over into more of the licensed world of Mattel and Disney. And I worked on that for about a good, I would say 80% of my time, close to my 10-year tenure at Mattel. It was very eye-opening. Just to see the inner workings of what the toy industry is like. It's not, when you think of the toy industry, you might think of, Tom Hanks and Big, but you don't you would walk into Mattel's headquarters design center, and you'd see a massive, almost 2-story Hot Wheels track, but we don't have like the bit, it's not like what you expect. Like a lot of times people ask that, but it's like any other company dealing with all of the different silos. It's international. We had 12,000 professionals worldwide, 30,000 globally, at least at the time I was there. And we had offices, we actually had brands that went beyond just the traditional ones we had acquired. American Girl, Mega Bloks, Fisher Price. So it definitely gave me a perspective of corporate America and allowed me sort of I've always had this genuine curiosity since I was a kid, and I feel like being in a corporate environment, though I love it, it almost propelled me to find different directions and not just go for the standard path. So so I think, as you said in my bio, that definitely I had a nonlinear career path, especially when you think in corporate Fortune 500 company. So, but
right.
So that's my little bit about Mattel.
Yeah. How did you move from branding and packaging to HR?
Okay, that's a great question, because it's sort of funny. It's weird. It's weird because I have a lot to talk about, because I've always been passionate. I guess you could say I'm a playmaker to some degree. And as I reflect upon my whole life, I see how I'm maybe not like the top goal scorer on my team, but I was always sort of the one who set up the assists and all, and always trying to I would come in my office every day or some weeks and be like, oh, you should look into this. Or I remember I was like one of the first people to discover the Die Line website when it first started years ago. And then just like little things, I just want to give like little nourishment, because like inspiration is nourishment for creatives. So what happened was there was multiple factors. I believe I was about 5 years in, and mind you, I loved working. It was a good experience and all, but there was something that was missing for me, that nourishment. So I started to look outwards more. I started to attend conferences, went back, started to reconnect with the AIGA Los Angeles chapter. And coming back from How Design Live, I believe in 2013, I noticed and then corroborated with a colleague that for about 5 some odd years, a creative company like Mattel had no outside creatives come to speak, really, for the most part, to the general population, which is baffling because when you look to Facebook, you look to Google, look to more of those tech, but still creative companies that you look up to and ask for inspiration, they bring in creatives all the time. So one thing, this is one sort of the first seed I planted, where we created grassroots style, the first external speaker series at Mattel, which was quarterly, had executive sponsorship with the fact that they'll allow us to put it on, but they gave us a budget for donuts and coffee. And we grew it to a point where it was quarterly, and then became biweekly, almost bringing design icons from Debbie Millman to Brian Collins, Dr. Nellie Bahioun, even Leland Mashmeyer Chobani, among many others. And then I helped curate the first creative conference and also the keynote speakers. So you had that path that was going on more at Mattel. Then outside Mattel, I was getting heavily involved in programming of the AIGA LA chapter. And I was trying to also just consistently look outside what the status quo should be. So not just do what is expected, but broaden the community. So I remember I curated an event with Design Plus Coffee. We had designers on the panel, but it was key people within the coffee industry that was more of the experiential design and more of that, just sort of different types of mindsets of design. So I liked that part. And then the third part around that same time too was I was talking with a creative leader at Mattel and trying to figure out what my next step was, like how I could evolve my career at Mattel. And there's 2 routes as a creative I could have taken at the time, be it management or just go in the IC, independent contributor track. Knowing how the management did not sing to me. So I, as a woman in a Fortune 500 company, I decided just to follow my own path and go around the hairball and just do what felt best for me. So this carried on for several years, and come about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I came back to my first speaking opportunity at How, and I decided to separate from my husband, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I can't, this is not singing to me anymore. Branding and packaging, I can't do this anymore. It just did not sing to me. I was really involved in the AIGA, really involved in my speaker series and connecting with all the various communities. And something just happened there, and there was a role that had opened up. It just more was an internal like help desk / creative programming for like more internal programming. And it made sense. I got the role. I scaled as much as I could within, myself, and I. Mm-hmm. And then that actually landed and that's how I landed in HR. So I've ended up in the learning development vertical of HR. And I worked with my director, who ironically was my HR specialist, who recommended this role initially. And I worked on from just internal speaker series to external speaker series, started a podcast, also worked on with the HR colleagues on creative career pathing, among other things. So that's how I got into HR.
And are you in HR at Adobe then?
No, I'm actually in marketing more, enterprise marketing. So
But not branding and packaging marketing.
No, it's
different.
It's more it's different, Creative Cloud. So basically, it's a program called the Creative Jams Enterprise. Creative Jams has actually been community based for a long time. Started in Paris and came here in the States, and I got to know Creative Jams just because it had an event in LA years ago. But about 2 years ago, somebody internally decided, let's try a pilot and bring this to our key customers. Coincidentally, I was one of the customers when they ran it at Mattel. I was the key point person on the Mattel side. And for me, it's fascinating because not only are you able to go into diverse in-house creative teams and plan out a whole day. Like it's actually a creative experience. It's like part creative tournament, part inspirational talks. And it's fascinating to curate that because you want that to be a success. For me, at the end of the day, it's like I just want people to be inspired, to be able to feel like they can actually connect and also evolve the story and to boldly make. So these opportunities are just amazing because just knowing how, the Adobe's tech, and then also just knowing how, in general, just the the creativity as a whole, and tech and design, right now more than ever, they're so intertwined and they're moving so fast paced. That's what fascinates me when I go in and curate these days with the different customers.
What I really like is that, have you heard this term intrapreneur at all? So,
Yes.
right. And you strike me as one in that you're working for a large company, but you're creating things that inspire you and inspire others. And you're going down different tracks rather than, quote unquote, just doing the job description sort of thing. How do you feel that has served you? And what would your suggestions be to other people in a similar spot?
It has served me because it's fed me. It's nourished me. I don't feel like if I just went in day in and day out and just did, my hour clock and just clocked in and out, I don't think I would be happy or even be able to be creative. So that's for me, by doing that, by going the extra mile and doing, like, my speaker series for the longest time was on top of my full-time job, and speaker series itself should have been its own full-time job. So how I think, for one thing, ultimately, when I was able to actually pull everything together, was around 2 years ago when I had my What's Next moment. And two things happened at the same time around that, beyond all the other things I mentioned. I was a part of I guess you could say, a group of non-management creatives that were working with our COO at Mattel at the time for culture change. We're going through a massive culture change. And when I transitioned to my new role, though I had exposure to my COO and group settings, all never interpersonal. So I knew when I got a meeting on the calendar, I had to do two things: is show as much as I can as possible, and also do it quick because he wouldn't have a lot of time. So knowing that he's visual, I created an infographic of myself. And that actually helped. It got a lot of the chatter out of my head and really put everything, what my pillars were, what my passions were. And for me, that actually outlined something even better of how I would proceed moving forward. It's almost like it was a guide as I moved forward internally at Mattel, or just in general. So that was very beneficial. And then also too, with my nonlinear path, and just even to reflecting upon my whole life, my interests and passions are run amok. I find I never made sense, but I was talking with a girlfriend soon after, and we were talking about our childhood epiphany and talking about what, you knew when you're young, what you're really good at, you want to be as growing up. And I didn't want to be a designer. I loved history, wanted to go into archaeology because I love cultures, connections, and community. Before I went to art school, I was double majoring in international relations and French at American University. And the same three things were the cultures, connections, and community inspired me. So right then and there, I think those little key moments helped even give me even more guidance and understanding as I wanted to go internally and then support people. Those were actually, it just was a nice guide. So if somebody can really reflect upon what patterns you see in your life, like of your interest, like for me, from history to international relations and French and design, I was able to find the patterns. Right. And also too, following that, was I passionate about them? Yes, I was. Once I had those two things, that was great. But then beyond that, the key factor for me at that point was finding people around me. Who are your people? Like, it's who knows you. And sometimes these people are much more objective than you can be, of course. And they can see things that you might not normally see, like my HR business partner. So I think those are the key things, especially it's really finding out what you're passionate about if you really want to become like more of that entrepreneurial personality. And also too, other thing is reading The Giant Hairball by Gordon MacKenzie would help me a lot too.
What is that? That's a book? Reading it?
Yeah, it is. It is a book. It's a short, fun book of internal creative hallmark. He was there for about 30 years, and he followed his own path. And Hairball is corporate America, basically, you could say. And Hairball, you don't want to get stuck in it. Even when a company reorgs, more gets added to it. So it's just talking about how he orbited that.
That's awesome. Thanks for that suggestion. As we wrap up, what's one thing that's on your radar that you feel like we're all going to be talking about as a hot topic in another year or two from now?
Oh my, that is a tough question.
Like, what do you have insider secrets on?
Oh my, I was thinking about stuff like that, been thinking about it, but it's hard to say when it comes down to, I know one thing I've been very inspired by, and especially with talking with somebody I know in London, we always consistently talk about the different specialties and the merging of them. I feel to some degree, taking a note from somebody in London named Gemma Milne, she's really looking into the cross-section of design and science. I feel that sometimes and also too, being more non-traditional design, coming from a design community where many times I felt felt sort of hindered by the evolution of my career, because it's not something pretty and tangible. It's something that you'll see the impact, but it's not like creating a box that's going to be on shelf in a couple of years.
Right.
But I feel like it's the non-traditional creativity path more so than anything else, and looking elsewhere. That's how I feel. You see that right now, but still, when you step back, I still feel that there is adoption, there is acceptance slowly, but still, I feel when you have a design leader come up to you, and I just had emerged into my role and say to me, I don't think you realize it, but this has stuck with me. Do you miss being creative? And I'm like, so I think there's still that adoption there and that understanding. So I feel like breaking down the walls, the immersion of science and design, even more so, pushing that. But I think there's for me, that's what's something in there. But that's what I'm feeling. But I can't pinpoint, because at the end of the day, this industry changes so fast, and also can be impacted by so many outside elements that will have long-term effect on it. But that's where I'm feeling. That's how I've always felt. So, and I wish more people would feel that way. But hopefully, it will become more. All the silos will be broken down, and there'll be more crossover.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invite. This was great. And thank you again. So I hope you have a great day.
You too.